All right, let's jump right into it. Today we're talking about the Agent Development Kit, or ADK for short. And look, this isn't about building your average run-of-the-mill chatbot. No, this is a seriously powerful client-side SDK. We're talking about the tools you need to build really complex, multi-agent applications that are tough enough for the real world, for actual production scenarios.
Okay, so before we dive deep, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Think of this as our map for the journey. What you're seeing here is the entire ADK ecosystem. It really covers the whole shebang, from the basic building blocks and tools to how you make agents work together, and all the way through to getting it out into the wild. This is going to be our guide as we break down the whole architecture.
So, here's the game plan for today. We're going to follow a pretty logical path, basically the journey a developer would take. First, we'll assemble the core agent itself. Then we'll give it some superpowers with tools. After that, we'll get agents talking and working together. And finally, we'll cover how to deploy the whole thing so it's ready for production. All right, let's get into it. Section 1, assembling the core agent. This is where it all begins, right? We're talking about the fundamental building blocks, the very heart of any application you're going to build with the ADK. Okay, check this out. This diagram really lays out the family tree for agents. See that base agent class at the top? Everything, and I mean everything, starts there. It's the common ancestor. From that, you get three main branches. You've got your LLM-based agents. These are the thinkers, the ones that do the reasoning and use tools. Then you have workflow agents, which are like the project managers, controlling the flow of tasks. And finally, you've got your custom agents, for those times when you just need to build something totally unique from scratch. So this table is super useful because it gets right to the heart of a key decision you have to make as a developer. It's all about picking the right tool for the job. Are you dealing with something that needs creativity and flexibility? Well, then you're probably looking at the LLM agent, even though it's non-deterministic. Or is your task more like a factory assembly line? It needs to be predictable, repeatable. That's a job for the deterministic workflow agent. This little chart right here is basically your cheat sheet for making that call.
Okay, so you've got these different types of agents, but how do you stop things from becoming a total mess, especially when you start using a bunch of them together? Well, that's exactly what the app class is for. You can think of it as the master container for your entire project. It's what takes all those individual agents and turns them into a single, organized, and manageable application. It's a really critical piece of the architectural puzzle.
And this is why it's such a big deal. The app class basically brings some good old-fashioned software engineering discipline into the world of AI agents. You know that nightmare of passing API keys and settings down from one component to another to another? They call it prop drilling, and it's a huge pain. The app class gets rid of that with centralized configuration. It also handles startup and shutdown, for things like database connections. It just makes the whole system cleaner, easier to test, and way more maintainable in the long run.
Okay, moving on to Section 2. This is the fun part, giving agents superpowers. Because let's be honest, an agent on its own is smart, but an agent with tools, that's a whole different level. So let's look at how the ADK hooks them up with some serious external capabilities.
This right here is a perfect, classic example of how you give an agent a tool. You're basically just giving it a very clear job description. You are a calculator agent. It's so direct. When you see a math problem, run some Python code and just give me the number. It's this kind of instruction that lets an LLM-based agent go beyond just chatting and actually do things, like in this case, using its code execution tool.
But, okay, a calculator is cool and all, but what if you need to do something way bigger? This is where the ADK really shines. It's not just about a few built-in tools. It's about connecting your agent to, well, all of Google Cloud. The gateway to this universe of capabilities is something called the API registry.
And honestly, this is a total game changer. The API registry connector is the magic piece here. What it means is you don't have to manually code in support for every single cloud service you want to use. No way. Instead, your agent can dynamically discover them. It can look at the registry and say, oh hey, BigQuery is available, and just start using it like any other tool. It's incredibly flexible.
Now, you know the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And in the cloud, responsibility is spelled IAM permissions, so you can't just let your agent run wild. These steps are absolutely crucial for security. You have to explicitly turn on the right APIs, give your agent the specific role to see what's available, enable the services you want it to use, and then, this is key, give it permission to actually use them. It's a lockdown, secure by default model, which is exactly what you want.
All right, time for Section 3, orchestrating agent collaboration.
Now we're getting into the really advanced stuff. We've built an agent, we've given it superpowers. Now, how do we get multiple agents to work together as a team? This is where things get really interesting.
And the secret sauce for making this happen is the agent-to-agent protocol, or A2A for short. Think of it like a common language that all agents can speak. This is what lets you build these incredible distributed systems where agents work together. So you could have one agent that's an absolute genius at financial data analysis, and another agent can just call on it as a tool to get help, even if that financial expert is running on a totally different machine halfway across the world.
And you might think setting this up is super complicated, but check this out. The ADK makes it ridiculously simple. You literally take your agent, wrap it in this one little 2A2A function, and then just serve it up. That's it. The framework takes care of all the heavy lifting in the background, creating all the metadata that other agents need to find it and know how to talk to it. It's pretty amazing.
You know, for those really fluid, human-like interactions, especially with voice, that old-school ask a question, wait for an answer model just doesn't cut it. That's why ADK includes native support for bi-directional streaming. This is what enables that super low latency back-and-forth conversation. It's what lets you interrupt the agent and what lets the agent process what you're saying in real time. It's the key to making interactions feel natural, not robotic.
Okay, we're on the home stretch. Section 4, deploying a production-ready system. Look, building a cool demo on your laptop is one thing, but making it run reliably, at scale, for real users, that is a whole different ballgame. So let's talk about the operational side of things.
First things first, observability. Because when things break in production, and trust me they will, you absolutely have to know why. The ADK hooks right into Python's standard logging system, which is great because it gives you tons of control. You can crank the log level all the way up to debug and literally see the exact prompts being sent to the language model. For debugging weird behavior, that is pure gold.
And speaking of things breaking, production systems have to be able to take a punch. Imagine your agent is halfway through a really complex multi-step job, and then, poof, the network glitches. Are you just going to start all over? No way. That's what resumability is for. It's a feature that lets a workflow pick up right where it left off, so you don't lose all that valuable progress.
So how does that work? Well, it's actually a pretty clever system. Every time a task or a tool finishes, the system logs it as an event. It's like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. If something goes wrong and the agent has to restart, it just follows that trail of events to get right back to where it was, and then it continues from the last successful step. It's a super robust pattern that makes your whole application way more resilient.
And here we are. This is the final destination. What you're looking at is the Google Cloud Console, and that right there is your agent, live and running as a real service in the Vertex AI agent engine. This is that magic moment, the leap from a cool project on your local machine to a real, scalable application that people can actually use.
And getting to this point is, again, surprisingly straightforward thanks to the ADK's command line tool. You just set a couple of environment variables for your project, and then you run one command, ADK deploy. That's it. The CLI takes over, packages up your code, builds it, and pushes it out to the managed service. It handles all that complex DevOps stuff for you.
So there you have it. We've gone on the full journey, right? We started with the basic agent building blocks, gave them structure with the app class, juiced them up with tools, and taught them to collaborate. And then we made them tough enough for production. You now have all the pieces you need to build some truly next-level AI systems. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build first?